Hi everyone. So today we're going to be talking about Galileo Galilei. This is one of history's and science's greatest minds. He's often called the father of modern science, and today we're going to be going into his early life, some of the stuff he taught us with the understanding of the universe and the foundation of physics and everything that's in a scientific occupation. And we're also going to be talking about his legacy. This is being presented by Aishwarya Srinivasulu, and let's get into it. All right, so his early life. Galileo was born on February 15th, 1564, in Pisa, Italy. His father, Vincenzo Galilei, was a musician and music theorist. He had a trait of critical thinking, which he soon passed on to his son, and Galileo was the eldest out of six children. His family faced a lot of financial difficulties, but his father made sure that Galileo would receive a solid education, and that would set up his occupation and how he became one of the most brilliant men ever. As a young boy, Galileo showed a lot of talent in both art and sciences. He wanted to originally become a priest, but his father encouraged him to pursue medicine. So at the age of 17, Galileo enrolled at the University of Pisa to study medicine. He quickly became fascinated by mathematics and physics, and he would attend classes actually out of his curriculum. So he ended up showing this shift from medicine to science really quickly. And yeah. As a student, excuse me, as a student, Galileo started conducting experiments. One of his famous experiments that actually is kind of debated today is where he dropped objects of different weights from the Leaning Tower of Pisa to challenge Aristotle's belief about how the heavier the object, the faster it'll fall. And the story's accuracy is debated, but it also kind of does answer highlight his passion for questioning and establishing ideas. So there's also that to take into consideration. Galileo's growing reputation ended up earning him a position in his old university that he used to study at, which was the University of Pisa, and he became the professor of mathematics. This is where he basically developed all of his understandings that are taught today, and about motions and the universe and observations. So yeah, his scientific life is very impressive. He basically went off of all of the pioneering work of multiple fields, which was astronomy, physics, and scientific method. He revolutionized the way we understand the universe today with his telescope. For physics, we learned about motion, inertia, and gravity from him. And for scientific method, he encouraged others to use observation and experimentation, but also broke away from philosophical approaches that many others in the 16th century would push on to others. As I said before about the telescope, Galileo built a telescope powerful enough to magnify objects about 20 times, and he made observations about the moon and how it had a rugged and cratered surface, and this actually disapproved of the church's idea of a celestial perfect star. And he also observed and discovered the four moons orbiting Jupiter, and they're now called the Galilean moons. And he also observed the phases of Venus, and all of these observations ended up going into a publication called the Sidereus Nuncius, or the Starry Messenger, and that's where he showed all of his achievements with the telescope. For showing the groundbreaking contributions for physics, he gave us the law of inertia, which, as it states, and I memorized this, an object in motion stays in motion unless acted upon by an external force. And this basically ended up laying the groundwork for Newton's first law of motion, so yeah. For uniform acceleration, Galileo ended up determining and understanding that an object accelerates consistently and uniformly under gravity, regardless of what weight or the amount of weight, and this ended up overturning Aristotle's theory that heavier objects end up ending up falling faster, and this is also shown through his Tower of Pisa experiment, even though it's controversial. He also did a lot of inclined plane experiments. He used inclined planes to show the movement of objects, and this would allow him to measure time and distance, and it gave him a lot of accuracy. And finally, in the dialogues concerning the two chief world systems, he published this text, and it was actually an argument about heliocentric model. So heliocentrism is Copernicus's idea, and it's basically that we orbit the sun, but a geocentric model is where the sun orbits us. And the geocentric model was supported by the church and traditional scholars, while Copernicus and Galileo were the ones that supported the heliocentric ones. And in this text, he ended up presenting arguments and using evidence from his telescopic observations to prove that it's true, and it is true. And the church and traditional scholars, and he criticized the church and traditional scholars, which actually led him into a lot of trouble because he was summoned by Roman Inquisition and tried for heresy, and was forced to not support heliocentrism, and he was in house arrest for forever. And that continued, but he still continued to inspire many with his legacy. And speaking of legacy, his legacy was incredible. Galileo revolutionized astronomy for us. He proved that the heliocentric model is true, and he shifted the way we see the universe today with his telescope. And he also made many famous scientists like Johannes Kepler and Isaac Newton, and gave them a way towards astronomy to teach new things and expand the truth about science. For modern physics, his studies of motion and mechanics ended up becoming foundational for the physics we study today in class. And with the law of inertia, he ended up influencing Newton's work and did a lot for Newton in this time. Galileo also emphasized observation, experimentation, mathematics, and set a standard for science today. He also showed a lot of resilience and courage against church opposition, and this was very huge since many would kind of conform in society during the 16th century, and this just basically made him more impactful and inspiration to many. I specifically chose Galileo Galilei for my project that I'm actually doing because he was an inspiration in the scientific world, and he changed the beliefs of many, but mostly his resilience and courage stood out to me, and his opposition against the church was like a huge thing around the 16th century and basically a part of society, and for him to go against the church and say what he believes in was very impactful and powerful, and is the reason why we know so much in the world today. Here are my sources, and thank you so much for listening. Have a good day.